Hello everybody. So for today's lesson, this is a special request. My wife has requested that we make some cat folk art. So that's what we're going to be doing today. I'm going to show you step by step how to draw the cat, and we're going to be putting in some patterns and some lines and some designs, and then we're going to be adding some color with it today also. So if you don't have any colors, that's fine. You can shade along with a pencil. You can do light and dark and grays, all the neutral colors. If you do have colors, I'm just going to be using some simple crayons. You can do them with crayons, you can do them with markers, you can do them with lots and lots of different kinds of materials, whatever you have available. So, let's get started. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to make a folk art cat. Now the first thing that I'm going to do is we're going to start with the face. So the face is going to be towards the top of the page, so it's going to be up in here. So a lot of this has to do with spacing. You got to kind of figure out where you want to space things, how big you want to make things, and just be real careful on how big the space is on your project, and how you're filling up the page. So the first step is we're going to make two circles. So I'm going to do them kind of at the top here. Now we're going to use pencil again, so you're going to want to do this lightly, okay, because you want to get it to show up, but it's not necessarily that we're going to do a lot of erasing, but just good practice to do it lightly first. So we do one circle. It's about, the size if you put, I guess 2 thumbs together, about that size there. And then we're going to make the second circle, and you want to attach it to the first circle. And again, these do not need to be perfect circles. We don't need to trace anything. We'll just do everything freehand. Okay. Now, the next step that we're going to do is I tell kids to build a bridge. So we're going to build a bridge from one to the other. You don't want to make it too high up. Just kind of a little bit down from the top of the circle, right about there. This is going to be the nose of our cat. So there it is, like that. Okay? And then we're going to build 2 tunnels. So we have a bridge and then 2 tunnels. 2 lines for a tunnel. So there's one line and there's another line. So there's the bridge and there's the tunnel. All right. So the next step, as you can see, we're starting to see a little bit of a cat face coming out of there. So the next step that we're going to do is we're going to go way up in the corner here, and we're going to make a triangle. Now we're not going to fill the triangle in, we're just going to make the zigzag for the triangle. Now we're going to do the same thing on the other corner. Just like that. Okay? And as you can see, we're starting to spread out the parts for the face. Okay? So then down here, we're going to make a line that's a zigzag line, and we kind of come in a little bit, so it comes in from the edge. Okay, and then when we get down here, we're going to go right to the bottom of the face right there, bottom of the cheeks. Okay, then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to come down and then in. And again, if you want to count and have the same number of zigzags on each side, you can go ahead and do that too. Not necessarily, but if that's something you want to do. At the top, we're going to connect zigzag line from top of this ear to the top of that ear, and we can kind of come up a little bit towards the top and then back down. Just like that. Right? And as you can see, now we've got a face. So the next part that we're going to want to add is some eyes. And again, you could do cat eyes, you could do whatever kind of eyes you want to do. I like doing more like cartoony eyes. So I just do like half circles like that. That'd be more like cartoonish kind of eyes. Like that. Grew up, I loved watching Tom and Jerry and Bugs Bunny, all the cartoons. Some of my favorites. So there we go. Let me just fill that in there a little bit just so we know it's there. Okay, now next, now we got a face. Okay, a little personality there. So now I'm going to move this up a little bit so you can see it. So now I'm going to work in the bottom half here. So for the bottom half, I'm going to come down, all the way down, and I'm going to start curving it around. Now this is where it gets tricky on this side. So I'm going to come around almost as far as I can to this edge, and then I'm going to come back up. Now I'm about middle of the paper here, okay? So this is about halfway in the paper. I'm going to start coming in and then up to the bottom here. So you see, I've started pretty even and I ended pretty even. So if I'm looking at the sides of the paper, okay, if I come in a little bit, both kind of ended about the same spacing. So from here to here and from here to here. That's a little tricky part there, okay? But I've used a lot of the space on the outside that I have. And again, if you're not perfect, if it just makes a U, that's certainly fine also. All right, so now the next step is I'm going to make some paws. So I'm going to come, move this over so there's no glare. I'm going to come down and out and around just like that, okay? So I'm going to come down, out, and around. So there's one paw. Again, remember, this is a folk art kind of cat, so doesn't need to look perfect or, you know, whatever. Just more stylized. And then I'm going to come, same thing. I'm going to come from the outside here. I'm going to come down. I'm going to end right about there, and I'm going to come out and around. Out and around. Just like that. Okay? And there we go. Now, we're going to add a little tail. And my tail is going to come up, and then it's going to come back down. And I like making the tail a little curve line, and then a little parallel curve line. So I come, see where it starts, come up, and then where it ends. And again, if you want to do like a curly tail or straight tail or a zigzag line for a tail, it's up to you. It just depends on how much room you have. A couple more steps. So now I'm going to take, I usually start right about here, and I'm going to make a little belly. So I'm going to come up and around. There's still a little cat belly there, like that. This isn't really going to look three-dimensional. It's more flat, so it doesn't really matter if these kind of look goofy. We want them to look a little goofy there. I know this, you would think, okay, this paw over here needs to be over on this side. Well, yes, but in folk art, it's more stylized. Now up in here, I'm just going to make a little triangle, just like that, and then I'm going to do a little zigzag line there. Just give it a little style right in there, okay? And then here, we're going to make 3 lines. And again, you can do straight lines that come out. You can make them curly, wavy, however you want to do them. I like making mine curly. So some whiskers. I just curl in the same direction, just like that. There's 2, 3. Usually make the bottom one a little bit shorter in than the other ones as well. That's a little art trick. Okay, so now we're going to be adding some designs. And just think of all the different patterns and lines and shapes that you know of. And this is where you really get to experiment and try some different things. So I'm going to do some little zigzag lines. Maybe do some things, little zigzags in here. Don't necessarily need to make it in order, but each shape that you do, you want to have a different kind of pattern. So this is a big giant shape, okay? So I'm going to do this pattern, the triangle pattern, in this big giant shape. I'm going to go ahead and add some more lines there, just to make it interesting. You could do whatever kind of lines and designs that you want. Okay, so there's one shape. The tail, this is another shape. So I'm going to just do some real simple, slightly curved lines. See how I change direction a little bit? It kind of changes as it goes. There we go. And then I could do the same type of patterning over in here if I wanted. Make it look more balanced on either side. I'm not going to do that just because I want to kind of change it up a little. So I'm just going to do some circles, polka dots, and I'm going to eventually, let's close the feet off there, because in the feet I'm going to make some triangles so they look like claws, and then make some half circles here. Maybe just throw a circle in there. Lift that up so you can see a little bit. You can see those. See those lines? Okay. All right. Now up around the eyes, I could do stuff like that. I'm gonna make another little thin line there. And kind of come around. Now, do be careful if you decide to do like eyebrows and stuff like that, because depending on how you angle the eyebrow, you can make your cat look happy, sad, or angry. So you can kind of give a little expression there. Let's go ahead. I'm going to fill this in just so you know this is the mouth here. There we go. Okay. So I'm not going to do the eyebrows, but I am just going to put some curvy lines. Just like that. And you can get really detailed with this too. And if you feel like you don't want to color it, that's certainly fine. This, if you just do black and white, or if you just only have a pen, or if you're just doing like colored pens or something like that, and you just want to trace an outline, this looks great as just a plain old line drawing. Now you know I'm kind of crisscrossing in between because these are going to look a little three-dimensional. They're just lines, so we don't have to really do anything other than keeping them there, making them nice and dark so they stand out when we do go to do it. I'm going to actually go ahead and add in some shapes in here. Let's do some hearts. Hearts are nice and easy. There we go. Just change it up a little bit. Some big hearts, some little hearts. And again, a lot of this stuff not overlapped. You could certainly do some designs that are overlapped. It's entirely up to you. I don't want to do too much. And I'm actually going to leave the belly plain, just like that. But that's pretty much it. This line here. Let's make that interesting. Got to go around my designs I've already got there. So So that's pretty much it. So I'm gonna stop there. I don't want to do too much. If I do too much, then it's gonna look like I did too much. So actually do one more little thing. I'm gonna put little circles there, just like that. There we go. Just adds a little more style in there. So yeah, nice folk art. We have a lot of space we can color in, some nice big spaces, some smaller spaces. A lot of kids ask me, can I do stuff on the outside? You certainly can. There's not a lot of room. So again, this is standalone like this, but that's pretty much it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to trace everything with black. Again, you can use whatever colors you want, but I'm going to trace everything with black, and then we're going to show you how to color. So, okay. Okay. So, what I've gone ahead and done now is I've traced everything with black. So now, what we're going to do is get some color. So I've got some crayons here. Now what I tell kids to do all the time is start with lighter colors first. So here I'm going to start with some yellow. And then you can go to the darker colors later. So just put a little yellow in here. And going around all my little shapes and everything. I'm doing like a little circle stroke. Go along the edges. Just take your time along the edges there. Just tell kids, go along the edges first, like that, and that gives you a little edge that you can use. And then you can go a little bit faster in the open spaces. Just like that. Just take some time. So. At this point, I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and then we're going to show you how to mix some colors as well. So. Okay, so at this point I've got that part done. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a darker color. So I'm going to be using red. So far I just stuck with the primary color. So I'm going to use with red. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit. And when I mix, I'm going to do it very lightly. My darker color is going to go on pretty dark. And again, just using a nice little circle stroke. And this is nice, so it's making a nice orange color. And then when I get toward the center, I'm going to lift up even more. So it's very, very light. So along this edge it's going to be darker, and out in here it's going to be a lot lighter. And then I'm going to go back in here, make this a little bit darker. See that a little bit more. This takes time. You got to kind of work it a little bit. Table's shaking, so it's making a little bit of noise. There we go. Oh. And a little bit lighter as they get out in here. This is called blending, so I'm really just kind of trying to blend everything. Slower so it doesn't shake so much. Oop. A little bit light out here. Fix it. There we go. Again, I'm kind of holding it. You can hold it overhand like that or under. I just noticed some different things as I'm going along. Just trying to make you aware of different ways to do things. So as you can see, it's starting to blend in there. Very light, very, very lightly out here. Just blending it in. Kind of the same way you make sunsets. So again, you want to do the lighter colors first, and then the darker colors as you go. Tape that. I have a little clip up top that's rattling quite a bit. There we go. Nice and light. Get darker down in here. And again, a lot of this is you just got to practice. Practice, practice, practice. Press down a little bit harder as you get toward the edge. Very light out here. Very, very light. And hardly anything on this side. The cool thing about crayons is they're so cheap. I mean, you can really get them anywhere. You can get them at the dollar store. And there's so many different things that you can do with them. Really one of my favorite materials to work with. If you don't have crayons, you could do this with a pencil. Very, very easy to shade. Good shading practice. Okay, so I did that. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an even darker color, take a little black, and very, very lightly now. Start very lightly because the black's going to go on really very dark. So I'm going to do it very lightly to begin with, just a little bit of shadow in there, shading. So again, start with the lighter colors first, and then add the darker colors as you go. And I'm not going to go as far out with the black. It's just kind of around the edges a little bit. See, I skipped all that part in there. Really kind of in my corners and get a little bit darker. And it's going to look, you have to look really closely at it to see it. But as you can see the black in there a little bit. I'll make that part a little bit darker in there. There we go. You can see a little bit more. So I tell kids, pick a side. So like this, I always do kind of the left side. I'm partial to the left side. Left side's going to be a little bit darker, right? And the right side's going to be lighter, and that makes it look like the light is coming from this direction, and it's hitting some different parts. And this is a good way to make things look a little bit three-dimensional. Just gives a different look to it. Notice, if you look really close, you might be able to see that when your black hits the little parts of the yellow, they kind of start to look a little bit green. That's just because of the color in the black material itself. There we go. So little shadows and highlights, and makes it look pretty neat. And again, little circle strokes kind of make it all blend together. I'll hold this up again so you can see it up close. See that? Almost like what they call a burnished look. Burnishing is kind of like when you burn an edge of a piece of paper or something. Kind of makes it look like that. So, okay. I'm going to continue to color this, and I'll show you the end result, and it'll be good to go. Okay, so at this point, I've got everything pretty much colored, and what I did also is I kept the colors that I used, I kept them outside the box. So it's always good to stay organized. So that's usually what I do. I'll use a color and I'll keep it out off to the side so I don't have to keep looking for it all the time. At this point, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the black. I wanted to show this one more time, where I'm just going to take this part here very lightly. Again, I'm going to shade it a little bit. I want my cheeks up here to kind of stand out a little bit. So again, very lightly to start. Just blend it. And again, I'm staying on the left side because I did the left side on the other part. I know you can't see it too well. You'll start to see it in a minute, because I'm going to go back in, make this a little bit darker as I go. So again, one pass over, making it a light coat, and then make it a little bit darker as you go toward the edge. You can start to see it starting to fill in there a little bit. Very lightly on the side. And again, since I'm doing a circle here, it's going to start to look like a sphere, which is a three-dimensional shape, which we also call a form. Forms are three-dimensional shapes. So, yeah, like that. And I'm going to do the same thing here. So again, I'm going to do this side, the left side, very lightly. Very, very light on this side. I got to kind of go around my little circles here that I made too. Don't want to go inside those circles. I want those circles to stand out. These little circles right there. I want those to stand out. Okay, go back in here. Very lightly, but start to add a little bit of pressure. I don't have to do too much. Just right on the edge. Just like that. You can see that. And then I'm going to do the nose also. Just very lightly on this side. Don't go too far over onto the right side, just the left side. And it's not a lot. Just right up in this little corner, a little bit darker. So like that, you can really see it in there. Okay. Oh. A little bit more in there. Okay. Now, you notice I left this belly white, and I left these polka dots white because I used a lot of really bold colors, really bright colors. So I'm going to actually leave those white. I colored in everything else. So again, you can leave things white if it's planned, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the black and I'm going to go very, very lightly in the belly. Again, on the left side, very lightly. Not going to come all the way over on the bottom. Oops. Notice how I move my hand to the end. That way I won't put too much pressure on the tip of the crayon. It's a little drawing tip for you. You gotta practice it though. It's hard to hold it at the end. It's very awkward. This is probably the hardest part here. And then I'm going to go back to the left side and I'm going to add a little bit more pressure. And again, if you're doing little circle strokes, it's a little bit easier to blend things. My crayon is pretty sharp at the end. If you have more of a blunt crayon, something that's not as sharp, it's a little bit easier. Okay. I'm going to go very light on this side, I want to start picking up the pressure. I don't want a lot of pressure on there. Okay, so now I'm going to go back in here, move my hand down to the tip a little bit more. Start pressing down a little bit more, not too much, just a little bit as I go. And again, as I start moving out toward the center, I can pick up the pressure. It's starting to look rounded. Just got to kind of work it a little bit at a time. A little bit more on the edge there. There we go. And then, since this is a nice big space, I can make bigger circle strokes. Kind of blends it a little bit easier for you. There we go. Press down a little bit more. There you go. So, it kind of blends a little bit more in there. Very lightly on the side. And then I'm going to do one more thing. I'm going to go back to grab my black marker, and I decided that I'm going to make, now you can do this with crayon too, you can put the color in with your crayon, but I decided I'm going to make these nice thick lines, very bold, so they really show up. Like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Show you the final. Okay, so what I have so far, this is pretty much it. What I wanted to point out was some of the different little things that I did. So I was coloring that black with the marker, and I added this black as well, and then I wanted to make it even throughout, so I filled in these black, and then I did decide to go ahead and fill in black around in here and in the feet as well, just to kind of even it out overall. And I just thought of one more thing. I'm just going to go ahead and just make little dots here, just to kind of spruce it up a little bit. And again, always just looking for different little things that you can do with it. Make it a little bit more interesting. I'm not counting the dots or anything, just kind of putting them in random. Just make it a little interesting there. And that's it. So, looks pretty even. Got everything all sorted out. So as you can see, the head, nice bold colors, nice big thick lines, lots of color in there. I decided to, on my colors, I kind of stuck with the same type of colors. Make this eye a little bit bigger. There we go. Kind of want to match the other one. Nice bold colors. I decided to stick with kind of the same colors. Very simple, so really all I used was 5 colors in the whole thing. And that's it. So that's the Folk Art Cat by special request, and hope you have fun with it and enjoy.